over the Caribbean. Guns glinted, weapons pods hummed, and for a moment every radio in Caracas fell silent. Before Apache attack helicopters, rotors like whips across the tropical sky, banking in tight formation over the... The horizon split with a new kind of thunder. Not transport planes this time, dozens of AH-64 Apache. This wasn't a flyover, it was a statement. America's most lethal attack helicopters had arrived, and everything just changed. To understand why this matters, you have to know the Apache. Built to hunt armored columns and control the sky over battlefields, the AH-64 is the modern predator of the battlefield. To understand why this matters, you have to know the Apache. Built to hunt armored columns and control the sky over battlefields, the AH-64 is the modern predator of the battlefield. Since the Gulf War, it's defined aerial lethality. Hellfire missiles, 30mm cannon, night vision pilots that turn darkness into a kill zone. When dozens show up at once, the message isn't subtle. You are within range. The operation began far from the public eye. At a forward logistics base, crews fueled, armed, and loaded Apaches with precision munitions. Maintenance crews ran final checks like surgeons before an operation. Pilots reviewed strike packages. There was no fanfare, only the hush of pre-mission focus. From takeoff to formation, the helicopters became a mechanical wave, heading south under strict radio discipline toward the Caribbean chain. At dawn, coastal towns watched the skyline fill with churning rotors. Apaches in echelon, trailing dust and low thunder, circled offshore before establishing patrol patterns. From the beach, fishermen mistook them for warships at first, then realized these were attack helicopters, not transport craft. Sensors lit up, naval radars pinged, cameras recorded every pass. For many, the sight felt like preparation for combat, and that was the point. In Caracas, the Defense Ministry reacted within minutes. Air defenses were elevated, and fighter sorties were launched to shadow the Apaches at a distance. State media called the deployment a brazen provocation, while the president convened emergency briefings. The optics of dozens of attack helicopters circling the northern coast forced a hard political choice: posture to protect sovereignty or avoid escalation at all costs. Tactics on the water and land. Once in position, the Apaches executed a mix of missions: maritime interdiction patrols, show of force passes, and close air support drills coordinated with naval assets. On the deck of a nearby destroyer, liaison officers synchronized targeting ranges. On shore, special operations teams rehearsed rapid insertion scenarios, the kind of choreography that convinces a rival you can strike from air, sea, and land in minutes. The message was precise: we can strike literal targets before you can react. Transport jumps show reach. Apaches show lethality. They are mobile, difficult to track in low altitude, and carry weapons that can disable ships, coastal batteries, and hardened positions. Sending Apaches signals an ability not only to move troops, but to end a fight fast. For allied partners, it's reassurance. For adversaries, it's intimidation, backed by firepower. Neighbors scrambled to reply. Allies publicly voiced concern, but privately welcomed the protection. Colombia and several Caribbean partners signaled coordination. Meanwhile, Venezuela's allies denounced the move as escalatory. Social feeds filled with dramatic clips of rotor shadows racing over turquoise water clips that would be edited into propaganda and reassurance in equal measure. The presence of Apaches in the Caribbean didn't stay a regional story. Moscow's analysts flagged the deployment as a new level of U.S. forward positioning, while Tehran's strategic messaging framed it as destabilizing. Both capitals weighed options: public condemnation, limited military signaling, and propaganda campaigns to rally regional support. The deployment had turned a Caribbean flashpoint into a signal along multiple theaters. Analysts outlined next steps: maritime integration, amphibious groups and carrier air patrols arrived to pair with Apaches, increased overflights, more helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft to saturate surveillance, forward basing, temporary Apache detachments in friendly islands to reduce reaction time, cyber/information measures, coordinated disinformation in cyber probes to distract or degrade responses. Each option increases pressure, and each carries the risk of miscalculation. Remember the people in the cockpits. pilots who fly by instruments at night, and gunners who have seen combat in deserts and mountains. For them, flying Apaches over the Caribbean is a professional mission with rules of engagement. But every pass carries the weight of what these systems can do. The sound of an Apache's rotor is more than noise. It is a psychological presence that terrifies and reassures in equal measure. For Maduro, the choice is stark: display defiance and risk an incident, or de-escalate and be seen as yielding. Venezuela's coastline is defended by limited air assets and shore batteries that complicate any quick counter. The optics of Apaches circling the littoral threaten to erode domestic confidence and amplify political pressure on Caracas to respond. Turning point. Are we seeing preparation or posturing? Was this tactical preparation for deeper operations, or a calibrated pressure campaign meant to force political concessions? The distinction matters. If posturing, the aim is deterrence and isolation. If preparation, we're watching the first steps toward coercive operations that could expand rapidly. Either way, the appearance of dozens of Apaches had already shifted the calculus. What happens next will tell the story. Key indicators to watch: additional naval task forces arriving within 48 to 72 hours. Increased air patrols and nighttime Apache flights to practice interdiction. Diplomatic notes and emergency sessions at OAS and the UN. Each development will tilt the region toward deterrence or toward confrontation. Expanded U.S. options, if pressure needs turning up. If Washington decides to escalate, more Apaches, paired with carrier air wing sorties, amphibious drills, and temporary bases in friendly islands. The combination would create a layered threat. Missiles from ships, strike helicopters inland, and fixed-wing control of the sky. For Caracas, that geometry creates a near-impossible defense problem. Caracas has tools that are mostly symbolic: coastal SAMs, asymmetric maritime tactics, fast boats, anti-ship missiles if available, and information warfare. However, these options risk provoking a response that could rapidly outpace Venezuela's capacity. Symbolism buys pride, it rarely buys tactical parity. Moscow and Tehran may respond through proxies, more advisors, covert equipment transfers, and online influence operations. But direct confrontation with U.S. helicopters in the Caribbean would be a high-risk move for them. Instead, expect escalation by proxy in the information and diplomatic spheres. Some Caribbean nations quietly appreciate the security umbrella. Others worry about getting caught in the crossfire. The result, governments issue carefully worded statements while quietly adjusting military readiness and intelligence sharing. The region is now split along new fault lines, and local politics will begin to move faster than usual. Military analysts weigh in. 3 scenarios. Containment. Apaches remain a deterrent. Wider conflict. External actors escalate through proxies. The situation expands beyond the Caribbean. Analysts warn that Apaches raise the probability of all scenarios because they change tactical possibilities on the ground and sea. Commanders in the theater face classic dilemmas: demonstrate resolve or avoid irreversible escalation. Each sortie becomes not just a training flight, but a political act. That pressure can force mistakes, or it can deliver leverage. The margin for error has shrunk dramatically. A passing Apache does more than surveil. It creates panic, forces sheltering, and dominates the narrative. Images of roaring rotors over turquoise water are irresistible on social media, perfect fodder for both reassurance and fear. Information becomes a battlefield as important as the physical sea lanes. On the streets, rumors spread, markets jitter, and state media amplifies defiance. Internationally, Venezuela seeks emergency statements and diplomatic support. Internally, the pressure compounds economic pain with political fear, raising the temperature inside Caracas. History shows these moments are fragile. A misinterpreted radar signal, a low pass that's too close, a coastal battery that fires at an Apache. Any of these could turn posture into a firefight. The presence of Apaches compresses decision time and increases the cost of error. If fighting breaks out, a rapid campaign should conflict erupt, Apaches would be used to neutralize coastal defenses and surveillance radars, target fast boats and port infrastructure, provide close air support for rapid insertions. Those missions would be horrific for defenders and swift in effect, and the humanitarian consequences would be immediate. Other capitals learn quickly. This is how power is shown without immediate invasion. Pacific partners, NATO allies, and regional governments all note the playbook, an important lesson for global balance and deterrent signaling. The final message: power and risk. The arrival of dozens of Apaches proves capability. It also proves risk. The U.S. can project lethal power close to Caracas, but every pass tightens the noose around diplomacy and raises the chance of misstep. Power is useful, restraint is necessary. The helicopters return to base tonight for now, but the sky has already changed. Will the next chapter be more Apaches, a carrier in the distance, or a diplomatic breakthrough? Or will a single miscalculation turn this show of force into something far darker?